Sportsbeard, really weird. Podcast, a podcast, it's finally here.
An hour of topical sports ranting and raving on both local and national topics. No topic off limit. Is it overdone? Maybe. But at least they both have beers.
Sportsbeard, really weird. Podcast, a podcast, it's finally here.
All right, you know what? I'm not going to call this episode 50. I'm going to call it week 50 of Sportsbeard. It is live on ecletnet.com. We're joined. Neil is not in studio. He's in the mile-high city of Denver, hopefully exercising his Second Amendment rights or whatever it is that he does.
It's a good place for him to do that.
It's a good place for him to do it, but I think he was trying to Skype in. I'm not completely certain. Maybe we'll get to him here at some point in time this week, but I know what questions he's going to ask, so we'll get that. But in his place, Sean Spurrier is in the house. How's it going, Sean?
Very good. How are you doing?
Good. You recovered from the tailgate extravaganza last week?
Yeah, and I want to thank everybody who was there with us, who stuck through that. It wasn't just the technical difficulties that we had, some live interruptions.
For those of you who weren't there live with us, there was a very, very drunk 50-year-old trying to pawn her very, very drunk 21-year-old off on anybody who was willing to have sex with her. So it was a very...
Welcome to the show, Alex.
Welcome to the show, Alex. And as we get blue really quick, we were joined with our friend, Mr. Fantasy Freak, Alex Wiesner is here. How's it going, Alex?
Pretty good. Just getting ready for fantasy basketball and trying to get through the football season.
He can be found on Twitter, Mr._Fantasy Freak, MrFantasyFreak.com, and on Facebook, it's just Mr. Fantasy Freak, correct?
I believe so.
Okay, so we're trying to give the plug here, and I should also plug our sponsors since I'm doing propers here really quick. Drury's Brewery has been the proud sponsor of Sportsbeard. I think proud is the right word, for a few tailgates now, so we really have to thank them. They gave us some great free beer. That's always a good time. So it's been close to 41 years, but Drury's beer is finally back in South Bend, Indiana. The original formula is intact, and the taste is surprisingly pretty decent. It's the same beer your dad used to steal out of your great-uncle's garage, and there's still a drop of St. Joe River water in every glass. Drury's Beer, now available at quality bars throughout the Michiana area, or pick up a keg at your local liquor store today. Drury's Beer. Did I do okay with that?
That was very good. Excellent.
See, I'm trying to mock Weaver's advertising voice, and I don't think I do a good job.
That was
You do a
surprisingly
horrible
professional.
job. Horrible.
I'm sorry. So it's surprisingly professional, and Drury's beer is surprisingly decent. So there you go. Thank you to Drury's. Also, thank you to the South Bend Roller Girls who have been promoting us too. So they're on Twitter at SB Roller Girls, and they're also on Facebook, South Bend Roller Derby. You're listening to Sportsbeard on ecletnet.com. Follow us on Twitter at Sportsbeard1. Like us on Facebook, /Sportsbeard. We can be subscribed to on iTunes and on Stitcher Radio as well. Send us a voicemail anytime you want on the ecletnet.com main page, and you can send us an email, sportsbeard@gmail.com. I think that's it. I got nothing else for propers. Does that cover everything?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's start this show. Alex, we're going to talk fantasy sports all day. You ready for us?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Yeah, we actually brought an expert here because we're clearly not experts, and that's the segue, because I want to do a quick recap of fantasy football here because I am stumbling out of the gate. We're in mid-season, and my teams are terrible. Sean, how are your teams doing?
You know what? It's kind of up and down. In the league that we play, I play with you and Weaver. I took Adrian Pearson, overall number one, and I just had a bad feeling about it this year. But what else you can do at number one with the number one pick?
You have no choice. It's a tough spot to be in.
And I just had a bad feeling about it, and it's turning out to be kind of true. So he hasn't been great. He's been off and on. He kind of either breaks a big run or he's nothing. Mm-hmm. But for some reason, this year seems like this was going to be the year for running backs to really get back on track as being the most important fantasy football players. And so far this year, other than maybe McCoy, Frank Gore's had a few good games, and probably Matt Forte, this has been a down year for running backs.
Actually, Reggie Bush has been doing great for me, believe it. He's not getting in the end zone, but he's been fantastic for me.
Yeah.
Alex, talk to us about fantasy football. It's been a weird year.
Well, just adding to your guys' point, if you look at Arian Foster, he's had a tough season.
Yeah.
A lot of people like Ben Tate entering the year, he struggled as well. So we've seen a lot of, and some of this is also due to injuries. a lot of the elite guys entering the season have had pretty bad years. Steven Jackson is one that comes to mind. But, I've always valued running backs more than the other players, but this is one of those seasons where we see the tight end position really come through, and we're able to see a lot. There's a lot more depth to that. So it has been a bit of a weird season.
And you're also not seeing, I'm not seeing too many games where you're seeing a running back touch the ball 25, 30 times.
Yeah,
I mean, Adrian Peterson, that last game, he only touched the ball 13 times.
Well, they were playing from behind, so and for whatever reason, they were passing the ball. How many times did Josh Freeman pass that ball? Like
36 times, I believe. And he has foot. There's a good picture of him and his foot moving. His feet are like this, like completely spread apart with feet in different angles. He looked awful.
Yeah,
that game was practically unwatchable. And heck, you had guys out of the scrap heap like Brandon Jacobs rush for 100 yards, and then everybody picked him up. He didn't play the next game.
Yeah.
The attrition this year has been crazy. I know we've talked about that on this show. How bad is that in fantasy football this year, Alex? It's been killing us. I'm sure you're getting all kinds of questions about what the hell do I do? My running back went out. My wide receiver went out. My tight end is out. It's crazy.
Well, everyone's looking for that next up-and-coming player to take over as their flex guy. I've gotten a little bit lucky. I picked up Zach Stacy a few weeks ago. He's been pretty good. But, moving forward, we're looking at guys like Roy Halou, and we want to see if he can build on what he did last week. Receivers out there, Justin Blackmon, he kind of came on strong after his suspension. He was another guy that I liked. But the depth out there is pretty weak right now.
Jason, I know, was talking about drafting David Wilson and getting burned.
Yep, David Wilson and Doug Martin. Thank you, guys. You guys are awesome.
The New York Giants running back situation is just a freaking mess. I mean, Brandon Jacobs had a great game, and it seems like he's going to miss multiple games now. I'm not sure what his actual injury is. Who's coming out of New York Giants right now? Anybody?
Well,
I think it's Peyton Hillis.
yeah.
Oh, wow.
He did seem to get the bulk of the carries. It was Hillis, and then the running back who used to play at Michigan. I think it's Cox. Is it Michael Cox? He got a few carries.
Yeah, Hillis's average yards per carry was horrible, but he did have a lot of big catches, so I think that probably won him the job. I think if you take away his longest run was 8 yards, I think I want to say he was 17 carries for like 22 yards or something.
But
like
he did
that.
have a touchdown, I believe. He had a rushing touchdown.
Had a touchdown, and he did have quite a few catches for, I believe, 45 yards.
Well, that's
points. I mean, if
that's
you need points, it's
Yeah.
points.
especially in your points per reception league. So it's Peyton Hillis. There's your. I guess give us some pickups. What is available in the scrap heap? Anything right now that can help people? I'm 2-5 in one league. I think I'm pretty much out of it. So I'm trying anything. And Lamar Miller hasn't done jack for me. So I'm stuck with Danny Woodhead at one of my running back roles right now in that league.
Yeah, and if that's the case, you're still looking for someone because the Chargers are on a bye.
Yep.
You can always pick up Mike James going tonight. You know, it's not the best play, but he's going to get double-digit carries. You got to think they're going to try to run the ball with him a decent amount. So if you can't get Mike James, like I said earlier, Zach Stacy, somebody that I'm looking at. And then Kendall Hunter. This week, San Francisco goes to Jacksonville. I think just because they're playing Jacksonville, you can give him a look. It's not a horrible play, but it's one of those when, I was looking through the numbers. This week, you're going to lose Matt Forte, Arian Foster, Chris Johnson, Danny Woodhead, Ryan Matthews. That's 5 of the top 20 running backs. And then with the rest of the bye week players, there's, I believe, 9 in the top 41 that are missing this week.
Ooh.
And then you add the Doug Martin injury, you're going to be losing a lot of key running backs. So you're going to be looking for players like Mike James and Zach Stacy to kind of take in as a flex play this week.
And it also looks like Steven Jackson is going to be out again this week, so it looks like it's a combination of Jaquiz Rogers and Jason Snelling again.
Yeah.
And neither of those guys are all that exciting. You also have, we are not really talking about the quarterback position. Cutler, Bradford, Hoyer, who else is out right now? It's a mess out there. I mean, the attrition is just insane this year.
We just saw the injuries just from this last week. You had Reggie Wayne went down. You had Cutler and Briggs from Chicago. Brian Cushing. You mentioned Sam Bradford went down. Leon Hall's out for the year. Patriots lost Mayo, and they already lost Wilfork.
Yep.
So that was a rough week, man, for injuries.
Yeah, and I really think if there was a trophy for the worst running backs ever drafted, I might win.
Yeah.
Like I already said, David Wilson, Doug Martin, and Chris Johnson, all of which Chris Johnson, on occasion,
We all kind of thought he was going to have a back season, though. I mean, I know Alex thought this too. We thought Chris Johnson, he's in a contract year. This should have been something for him.
Yeah, and he's in his prime still. I always keep forgetting that he's so young, that he's been around for so long, but not so much.
It's just once those running backs have that magical 2,000-yard season. Not that a lot of them have had that, but they just
die.
Other than maybe I think Barry Sanders and Eric Dickerson, they came back strong years. I can't think of anybody else who after a 2,000-yard season really kept it going. And it seemed like you can look at Jamal Lewis, Chris Johnson, several players that just went.
Peterson this year.
Yeah, Peterson just downhill. Quick.
Priest Holmes.
He almost disappeared.
Yeah, he disappeared after that. Fantasy Hall of Fame right there, Priest Holmes, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
On that Mount Rushmore of fantasy, him and LaDainian Tomlinson. So
don't forget Eddie George.
Eddie George was all right.
He could be on the fantasy Mount Rushmore. I think.
Are we doing fantasy Mount Rushmore real quick before we go into basketball?
No.
Is that what you want to do?
I don't like seeing Eddie George, getting forget about.
I think Alex did mention someone earlier that if you really need a waiver wire pick right now, Halou is someone you can grab. If Terrence Williams is still out there, he's lining up for Dallas right now as the wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
So if you need a flex player,
A lot of those guys are being picked up already. I think
Halou.
Zach Stacy's not going to be available in most leagues. Roy Halou's found himself drafted in a lot of leagues and stashed in some of the bench because you don't know what was
snatched him
going
up
on.
in one of our leagues.
Yeah, so I mean, I did that with Justin Blackmon. So he was.
What do you think about Schaub, Alex? Do you think he's gonna get his starting position back, or are they gonna roll with Yates?
I think they're going to stick with Keenum, honestly. I think that they just need to turn the page and just do what they can to get younger and just figure things out. I think we could see Kubiak get fired at the end of the season. And if that's the case, management might just say stick with Keenum and play for the future.
You think he's going to make it to the end of the season?
Kubiak?
Mm-hmm. Not at this rate.
No, not yeah, exactly.
They're imploding. It seems over there in Houston. That was the sexy pick to make the Super Bowl too out of the AFC.
Yeah, there was big talk about them. Them and Cincinnati were kind of going to make a big run this year, and I don't know about either one of those.
Well, Cincinnati's 5-2, and they're winning some good close games. I mean, that team. We were really high on Cincinnati during that fantasy talk we had earlier. Are you still as high on Cincinnati's offense as you thought? I mean, they're not. The numbers aren't there, but they're still winning and they're playing good football.
Yeah, I'm still high on them. I think they're just figuring out a handful of kinks. I think Dalton's thrown for over 300 yards the past couple of weeks, so I think they're starting to figure themselves out, and the defense is going to be pretty solid. It depends on the schedule, but yeah, I like them moving forward. I think they win the division.
I think they're going to run away with the division. So.
Yeah, I said that when we were talking about the NFL preseason this year, kind of like our expectations. I said that division was wide open for them to just take over and carry it, and I think they will.
Yeah, easily.
We have one league that Nevis and I are both in that is just completely
backwards.
Yeah,
Horrible.
completely backwards. And to give an example, Alex, Nevis has Calvin Johnson and AJ Green in that league. Nobody took those guys.
Wow.
It's a league where it's very, very quarterback heavy. I believe every 10 passing yards is 1 point. So, and it's a roto league as well. And for defense, on the flip side, every point scored against is -1 point.
Yes. So the Broncos are working out really well
Yeah,
for
the
me.
Broncos defense is killing Jason right now. And I've gotten really lucky because I've had the Patriots defense who haven't given up much points. But that league is a terrible, terrible league. And but my running back situation in that league is terrible too. It's Lamar Miller and Reggie Bush, Reggie Bush has been phenomenal, really. I think he without question has to be a Pro Bowler at this point in time if he keeps this up. So
yeah, I mean he's kind of had a couple quiet games, not like what he was, especially early season. But especially if it's a PPR league, then you're solid.
Yeah, and even last week it was I think he was maybe only 40 yards rushing, but he had I think somewhere in the neighborhood of 50, 60 yards receiving.
Yeah, you'll take
a touchdown.
You'll take that every week.
Yeah, I'll take.
All right, we should probably move into a subject I know nothing about.
Well,
Fantasy basketball.
Really quick, do you have anything football related to pass along before we move into fantasy basketball, Alex?
Just keep an eye on all the injuries out there and do your best just to pick up a lot of the players. Harry Douglas is another one. You guys mentioned Terrence Williams. But, I mean, I saw, including the bye weeks, we talked about the running backs. There's about 8 or 9 people that are going to be out this week just for wide receivers that are inside the top 35. Guys like Brandon Marshall, Jeffrey, Torrey Smith, Eddie Royal, Andre Johnson, along with Julio Jones, Reggie Wayne, Randall Cobb, James Jones. All those guys are out. So this is one of the tougher weeks out there. So just plan ahead and do your best.
Everybody hit those waiver wires tomorrow. Tomorrow and Saturday, I think, is going to be a heavy waiver wire day. Fantasy basketball, Jason, are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
You don't have my theme music. I was going to play some John Tesh before we started this.
I got a chipmunk in my bedroom, man. I had things to deal with.
Okay, I didn't think I was ready to talk fantasy basketball or basketball at all, but then I listened to the John Tesh NBA on NBC, and now I'm jacked.
Got you all fired up?
I'm all fired up for fantasy basketball. So
it is possibly one of the best sports theme songs of all time.
Oh, it's the greatest. You listen to it, and I was like, oh yes, John Tesh, let's go. It's basketball, NBA. Okay, let's talk, Alex. Let's talk some fantasy basketball. I'm going to let you lead the conversation here. Talk to us. It's Jason doesn't play fantasy basketball. Sean, you've played fantasy basketball before, right?
A long time ago.
Yeah, I've actually been playing for several years, so I'm pretty well versed in fantasy basketball. And the one thing I'll say with fantasy basketball to anyone who's kind of against it or maybe not as versed in it as football is fantasy basketball is an unbelievably competitive fantasy game. I've only played in Roto. Most people don't play head to head, I believe. Most people play in just Roto leagues, and it is. I mean, usually you get about 10 to 12 statistical categories. Maybe I've seen as many as 17, which is crazy, but it can be unbelievably competitive if you get the right group of people really invested in it. So, Alex, talk to us about fantasy basketball.
Well, you guys are right. Basketball is one of those sports where statistics mean a lot. I'd say it's pretty close to baseball in terms of the in-depth of everything that you can keep track of in terms of percentages and points, and everything can be broken down. So this is the year where I'm targeting multi-category studs, some of the better players. If you look across the landscape of the league, we all know LeBron and Kevin Durant are the best two players. And that remains so in fantasy because of what they do in every single category. And the key there is to go after players that put up the similar numbers that are available later in your draft. So guys like Blake Griffin, you wouldn't think he'd be a great fantasy player, but he does a handful of things very well, which makes him a good pickup in the late third rounds of most drafts. You have underrated guys like Brandon Jennings, who are good in terms of scoring points, getting assists, steals, and shooting threes. And you don't really think about Jennings being that good, but he was only one of 9 players last year that ranked inside the top 25 in at least 4 of the 8 main fantasy categories. So you have to look for players like him that have upside this season, because when you look across the landscape of the league, there's only a handful of players that are as balanced as Durant and James, and most of them aren't going outside of the second round. They're all top 20 players.
Really quick, let's, I guess for our audience, because I know there's a lot of people who don't play fantasy basketball, the main statistical categories you look at, Alex, I usually see, there's points, obviously, rebounds. Some leagues actually break down rebounds into offensive rebounds and defensive rebounds, depending on what type of league you're in. Assists per game, turnovers are usually obviously a negative. A lot of leagues have minutes, and then your percentages. The free throws can be broken into many different ways, but obviously free throw percentage is a big one in there. Some people also have three-pointers made, three-point percentage. So, Alex, what are the 8 main statistical categories we're going to talk about here? When you're talking about that?
The ones that I look at are points per game, assists per game, rebounds, steals, blocks, three-pointers, and field goal percentage and free throw percentage. Okay. But like you said, a lot of leagues, they go into more depth, as in, field goals made, three-point percentage, and all that. But those are the 8 that I keep an eye on.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, because I know a lot of people think it can be really detailed. I know the league I'm in, we have free throws made and free throw percentage. We have 3-pointers made and 3-point percentage. So you're not just getting the benefit of the made or the percentage. It's both, and it can be very nerve-wracking when you got, especially like the hack-a-shack type players, who they might make a lot of free throws, but their percentage might be ungodly low, which it hurts you in that category. So the research you have to do it's mind-numbing on those type of players. So I guess we'll just let's break this down a little bit by position here. And most leagues too, they tend to break down. I know a typical Yahoo league, you have point guard, shooting guard, power forward, small forward, and a forward spot and a center spot, and then your utilities. So I want to start with point guards first, and let's just go position by position here. Give us your top 5 in each position if you want to go that route here, Alex.
Okay, well, top 5 for point guards, I have, let's see here, hold on a second. Looking it up. Chris Paul, Curry, if he's out there, Kyrie Irving, Derrick Rose, and Darren Williams.
Okay, so I guess I'll play Neil's advocate here. Derrick Rose is at 4. What the hell are you talking about?
Right. Well, that's he's got the upside of number 1 and number 2 because he can score. He can lead the league in scoring, but there is some concerns with him coming back. How is he going to fit with the rest of the team? How do the players take to him? I think he's going to have a good season. I think he's going to be possibly in the MVP discussion, but I tend to play it safe when it comes to players like this.
Especially a player coming back from injury with, obviously he has the upside of a LeBron and a Durant, but
right.
From a fantasy standpoint, and from a point guard standpoint, it might not be as balanced from a statistical standpoint as, say, Chris Paul.
Well, I mean, just watching him in the preseason, Alex, would you take him in the top 10 if you're drafting in the top 10?
Derrick Rose?
Yeah.
No, I feel much safer with him in the second round.
Wow.
Okay. And this is a guy who just maybe 3 years ago might have been in some discussions as the number 1 overall pick.
Right. Well, adding to that point, the point guard position is really deep this year.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel much better taking like a wing player or a shooting guard in the top 10 as opposed to a point guard because you can get guys like I mentioned, Brandon Jennings, Damian Lillard. Those guys go in the third round, and they're not too far behind Rose and Kyrie Irving in terms of their numbers. So I think the point guard position is so deep that you can kind of weigh in on Rose a little bit.
All right.
You just talked about Damian Lillard, and I'm actually going to ask. There's a question here on our Twitters that I'll just go ahead and segue right into it. Is Lillard more likely to average 9 assists per game or 5? Where is his upside and downside? So let's go into a couple questions there.
Well, I think probably closer to 8, I'd say, this year, because he is a pretty good scorer. He shoots the 3-ball very well. I think he set a record out there in Portland for the most 3-pointers made, with 185 last year, I believe. Mm-hmm. And Lillard's a guy that he's going to be able to. But I think he's more focused right now on the scoring aspect, and he'll take the assists as he gets them, but I don't see him averaging over 8 this year.
My big thing with Lillard this year is, obviously LaMarcus Aldridge is a beast, and he's going to be a really big recipient of most of those assists from Lillard. Robin Lopez averaged 5.6 rebounds, I believe, last year a game, which was his career high, which ought to take a little bit of heat off of Aldridge, so Aldridge should be able to do more scoring. But then you have Myers Leonard, Thomas Robinson, CJ McCollum. That's a young team, and how Lillard's year is going to be is really going to be determined by how his supporting cast does. And there's a lot of growth for both Leonard and Robinson and McCollum and some of that, and Nicholas Batum. So it's a weird team, that Trailblazers team, but Lillard could be a 9-10 assist guy, but it's really going to depend on his cast, what he's actually going to end up doing as far as assists go. But I think he's going to have to score more than pass the ball around.
Right.
What do you think about that, Jason? Fantasy, that's some basketball analysis for you. You like that?
That was nice. I feel like I learned something.
There you go. There's your Portland Trailblazer talk for Sportsbeard here today. Okay, shooting guard. Let's move on to the next position. I feel good. I did some analysis there.
I don't know what's going on right now.
So,
shooting guard. Let's talk shooting guard.
Sorry, I got us off track.
Sorry, Portland Trailblazer talk doesn't happen very often on this show, I'm assuming, so forever. Oh, did we lose Alex there?
Oh, I'm here.
Oh, there we go. So, shall we?
You didn't ask him a question.
I just moved
I'm
on.
waiting for you guys to ask.
He's just supposed to start talking.
Oh, geez,
that's all.
Why don't we talk about shooting guards, guys? Let's go to top 5. Actually, shooting guards really deep. So let's go top 10 shooting guards here, because that's a very deep position that actually, obviously there's some big players on that list. So,
well, Harden, Curry, Paul George, Batum, Dwayne Wade, Klay Thompson. You got Kobe, Leonard, Monta Ellis, guys like Andre Iguodala are borderline top 10. Eric Bledsoe's around there, Wesley Matthews. Mm-hmm. And then O.J. Mayo is kind of a bit of a sleeper for me, I'd say, out there in Milwaukee.
He's going to get a lot of opportunity, but he's never been the marquee guy. I think the defenses are going to have to swarm him, and they're going to have to find somebody in Milwaukee who's going to pick up the pace, which is nobody. So Milwaukee's going to have a lot of trouble scoring points this year.
Right, and they kind of revamped that roster. So, I mean, they brought Mayo in hoping that he'd be the guy, but I'm not sure he's able to shoulder the load yet. But we'll see what they can do. They'll miss the playoffs they'll miss playoffs this year after making it last year.
Mm-hmm. Well, Mayo's never been that main guy. That's the thing shouldering the main point load over there. You have a Tentakumpos who's getting rave reviews did I mispronounce that?
No, I have no idea who that is.
Giannis Antetokounmpo is the Bucks' number 18th pick in the draft this year.
From Greece?
From Greece.
All right.
The Grecian, the 18-year-old kid. He was drafted 15, and a lot of upside, but a lot of unknown. The kid was really, really an unknown, but he's 6'8", plays really long, can play some point at that height. So he's been getting some pretty big reviews. People are really liking what he's doing in the preseason, and he could be the sleeper of this draft. He could be the Lillard of this draft. Because Lillard went 10 or 11 last year. So Antetokounmpo is somebody to look out for. As a Bucks fan, I'm wearing a Bucks hat. It's somebody that I have to hang my hat on something, and he could be a sleeper pick or it could be a complete bust. Any thoughts on Antetokounmpo here? Being drafted, any sort of fantasy consideration for Giannis?
Well, I think that if you take someone like that, it's going to be in the last round of your drafts, and you're taking him as a flyer just to see what could happen. And the fun part of taking someone like that is you can always create a fun fantasy basketball team name just with him. So
yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to it.
And I'm assuming I'm completely pronouncing his name wrong. By the way, I'm pretty sure it's Antetokounmpo. So.
Sounds good to me.
Antetokounmpo, so something like that.
I just want some souvlaki now.
Yeah, no, I'm sure he's baklava being served at the Bradley Center right now as we speak. So we're in Indiana, and everybody's all over Paul George right now. Paul George, I think you mentioned him top 3, top 4 as far as fantasy goes. His overall stat line, when it comes to all stats, didn't seem as consistent to be a top 3 player. Can you explain Paul George being that high? You think he's going to have that big of a breakout year again, or a second breakout year?
Yeah, I think this is the year where he really takes a step forward, puts himself right in that same category as Durant and LeBron. I think he's got the ability to score over 25 points, put up 7 rebounds, 5 assists, couple 3-pointers. He's going to be the guy that if you don't get a top 2 pick and you take him 3rd overall, I wouldn't be upset with that. I think that him, along with James Harden and Chris Paul, I think that's like your top 4 guys right there. You could see Stephen Curry in the same group, but I think right now I'd prefer to have George just because of the position that he plays and the team that he's on. I think they rely on him to do a lot more, and he doesn't have to worry so much on the defensive end because he does have a pretty good supporting cast down low. I think that George has that. He's got a chance to really take over the league this year.
And you're talking about a Pacers team that, was pretty close to beating the Heat last year, and you can argue they should have beaten the Heat last year. I like that Pacers team. I think they've made some decent moves in the offseason. They're a team that should be in that hunt again. I think they might. I'm not going to predict they're going to beat the Heat, but I think you're going to see Pacers Heat again in the Eastern Conference Finals.
I agree. I think the Pacers looked really good last year. It would be nice if Danny Granger could make it through a full season. That would help a lot. Mm-hmm. That's a big if.
But Paul George, his rise is mainly because of Danny Granger being hurt.
That's true. Yeah, I like the Pacers, man. All 5 positions they seem pretty solid. Mm-hmm. And I don't think we've seen the best of LeBron yet, but I guarantee we've seen the best of Dwayne Wade. He seems like he's on the downslide.
Yep.
And Bosh is one of the most inconsistent players in the NBA. I think the Heat this year, I think they're going to be vulnerable. They're still going to be at the top, but I think the Pacers can knock them off this year.
Well, there's also, there's also the Nets too. That's a weird team too.
Yeah.
How do you like the Nets, Alex? They're ancient. You got Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce being signed with them. Jason Kidd, first-year head coach there, obviously has a little bit of cred there with his players. But that's a team they're expected to compete right now, and I don't see it.
Yeah, well, from a fantasy perspective, having all those big names together is really going to take away from each other because Garnett's not going to be able to do as well with Lopez there and Pierce and Darren Williams and Joe Johnson. All these big names, they're great players, but now that they're on the same team, they're just going to take away from each other. And when you put a rookie coach into the mix, I'm not really sure Jason Kidd is going to be able to take that team to the next level this year. I think they're going to go through a lot of growing pains, which isn't a good thing considering they are an older team. So I think the Nets are going to make the playoffs, but they'll probably be out. I don't see them making it to the Eastern Conference Championship at all.
From a fantasy standpoint, I like Brook Lopez. Who else do you like on the Nets? And I mean, as far as early round, I don't think you can take any of those guys except Lopez in the early rounds, right?
Looks like Skype froze.
Nope. Did Skype freeze on us? Oh, did we lose Alex?
I'm back now.
Oh,
I
there we
think.
go.
There we go. Okay, so Alex, we were saying besides Brook Lopez, there, do you see any of the? Would you take any of the Nets in the first 5 rounds?
Possibly. Oh, well, Darren Williams, yes.
Yeah, okay, Darren Williams.
Yeah, I'd say he's probably a second rounder, but aside from that, probably not. The shooting guard position might force you to take Paul Pierce in the 5th round, but I don't see it happening. I think it was a 4th round pick last year. I'd stay away from most of them for the most part.
Well, Brook Lopez was an all-star, 2 years ago? Was he last year? Either last year or 2 years ago, and he was borderline. I mean, he was about to become one of the premier centers in this league. He can rebound. He can score in the paint.
Yeah.
He's much better than his brother.
Didn't he get hurt last year?
He did get hurt last year, but he still came back and had a heck of a season. I think Garnett's going to take away from his fantasy value significantly.
Yeah.
So it actually, I think it regresses Lopez, but he's still worthy of a flyer in the first. If you're looking in the center, I'm really high on drafting big men high in fantasy basketball. I think they put together a lot more stats than people give them credit for,
Right.
especially when it comes to the percentages. So I'm a big fan of drafting a good second center if you need it, and Lopez might be available in a 6th round or 7th round, and I think if he's available that late, you got to nab him.
Oh, definitely. And I think that even though he'll take a hit in value, he's still a good player considering how shallow the center position is, in terms of scorers. So, and he does offer that to his fantasy owners. He can put the ball in the net.
Well, let's talk center then, since we were talking about centers. Talk to us about your top 10. Again, I'm really big on centers, so I want to kind of talk about centers as much as possible. Top 10 centers, and who do you see as like a good sleeper value in a late round? And let's talk about that center position. That's to Alex.
Go ahead, Alex.
Go ahead, Alex. Let's talk. I'm going to ask you about centers.
We got guys like Marc Gasol, Serge Ibaka, Aldridge, Al Jefferson in Charlotte, Anthony Davis, Al Horford, Joakim Noah, Dwight Howard, Larry Sanders, DeMarcus Cousins, David Lee. Those are a lot. Those are pretty much the key guys I think this year. Outside of that, you got Chris Bosh, Greg Monroe, Roy Hibbert, Tim Duncan, Pau Gasol.
Tim Duncan had a great year last year from a fantasy standpoint, and you think he's going to have that much of a regression? I think he was a top 10 center last year in most fantasy. You have him down, I think, somewhere in the bottom 50s here as far as I think you have him 55 overall. I mean, I would draft him much earlier than that. Can you explain why he's so low on your list? Do you think he's hurting, or did I miss something?
Well, the thing with Duncan is that last year he put together career high free throw percentage, and I think in terms of fantasy value, that really makes your overall stat line look better. So I'm not sure he's going to be able to repeat those numbers, and we know that his minutes are probably going to decrease being in San Antonio. It's really one of those players that when you pick him up, you're going to look for consistency when he's out there, but the upside, there's no more upside.
That's a bold statement.
Yeah.
If that was the end there, I think the Skype feed just kicked out, but no more upside to Tim Duncan.
Yeah, I was kind of shocked when I was looking through the pre-draft rankings. Tim Duncan was way down there. That was one name that jumped out to me. Duncan, going 3rd, 4th round, and then Serge Ibaka. Serge Ibaka seemed like he was going mid to late 1st round. And I was just that. I mean, obviously, fantasy basketball is not my thing, but with Ibaka being that high and Duncan being that low. Yeah, I was kind of shocked about that.
And Alex, that's a good question too, because I was surprised to see Serge Ibaka that high. I know he gets a lot of blocks, and that's big in fantasy basketball, is trying to get guys who get blocks because there's just not that many. So that gives Ibaka a lot of upside, and his value and his ranking goes high because of blocks.
Right.
Alex, could you explain, besides blocks, why is Ibaka now in the top 15, top 20 players in the league in fantasy?
Well, I think the biggest part is blocks, but I mean, he's a guy that can average pretty close to a double-double in terms of points and rebounds and shoot a decent percentage. So when you have that, and when you draft Ibaka, you kind of just take care of your blocks for the entire team, because with the amount that he can put up each week, that puts your team in a good position. So if you get a guy like Ibaka, you don't have to worry about blocks pretty much for the rest of the season as long as he's healthy. And that's a big advantage a lot of people prefer to take. And, you know, with Westbrook out, they might need him to put up a few more points early on in the season. That might be helping his value a little bit. But aside from blocks, you know, there really isn't anything spectacular about him.
A guy I would talk about as far as blocks goes, that he should be available maybe in the 7th, 8th round. He's mainly a spot defensive guy, but Larry Sanders, Milwaukee, I mean, arguably one of the top 5 defensive players in the league last year. Got some sleeper votes for Defensive Player of the Year, something he wasn't going to win, but he did get some votes for it. And he's a block machine. He's not going to score the points, but he's going to be a rebounding and block machine. So if you're looking for a center in the late rounds, Alex, what round do you see Larry Sanders being a great value pick, or where do you see him available to pick up or as a steal? I think we keep losing the video feed there. Is that
we keep Skype is doing a Skype thing here, so we just kind of got to wait for it to come back.
Well, Larry Sanders is another Milwaukee Buck we're talking about there. So there you go.
Oh, I like this show when it's on HBO. The Larry Sanders Show is pretty good.
Starring Gary Shamling. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. So
just trying to kill some dead air.
Kill some dead air there as they're talking. Well, no, actually, you know, I'm not making that up. The Bucks did a big revamping this year.
Right.
You know, getting rid of Jennings and signing Larry Sanders to a long-term deal. I mean, they got him at a pretty good deal. I think it was $30 million 4 years, which is a steal for a top-tier defensive player. And he's really been playing well. So it's I think
we got Alex back.
We got Alex back. So do you hear us, Alex?
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay, so we're talking about Larry Sanders. I'm not sure if you heard the conversation, but where do you see Larry Sanders as a steal, or where is he going to be available, or where would you be stupid not to take him? Because I think he's not going to get the points, but he's going to get the blocks and rebounds, and he's going to be a heck of a center for you.
Right. I think he's actually going to be like the next Serge Ibaka in terms of the style of play that he has. And, you know, I've seen him go as high as like 5th round in most leagues. I think if you can get him in the 5th, that's great. Go for it. And I can't see myself reaching for him as a top 40 player, but 5th round, 6th round sounds about right. And he's going to be one of those guys where you get him, you're going to be set on blocks for a while. And if somehow you end up with Ibaka and Sanders, you know, you should have nothing to worry about there.
Dwight Howard, you have him as, I think, in the latter half of the top 10 as far as centers go. What is his upside this year? Is he going to be, I mean, obviously his defensive defensive stats are great, but do you see him scoring points in Houston with Harden and Lin and that group of people there?
I think he's going to put up pretty close to 20 points. I think what we're going to see is the same type of numbers he had in Orlando, because Houston likes to shoot the 3-ball, and that's kind of what Orlando used to be. So Howard's numbers in terms of rebounding and points are going to be pretty close to what he averaged a few years back. And I think that he really comes back after a bad season last year. I think he's healthy, and most importantly, he's happy in Houston. So he's going to be able to put up top 20 numbers by the end of the season is what I'm thinking. And I think he's a steal in the third round. I think you get him probably 3rd round, and that's pretty much a steal.
Okay. Question from Twitter. Are there any big men who rebound and block well, what we're talking about, and who shoot 65 to 75% from free throw, but don't take or miss many free throws per game? That's a very specific question.
Very specific.
I'll leave that to you, Alex. You got that?
Well, I mean, if we're thinking about late round guys or that can put up good numbers from the free throw line, you're maybe looking at I don't know. This is a tough one. I will give you a sleeper pick that not a lot of people are thinking about that might end up putting up some pretty good numbers is Andrew Bynum.
Okay.
Down in Cleveland, and he gets to work with Irving. That might be the answer to your question. And just take a flyer on him. and you might end up getting a pretty good player for a cheap price.
Is he healthy right now? Do we know?
He is healthy right
Is
now.
he? Okay.
I believe so. I believe they are expecting him to play. So that's a good question actually. So I guess Andrew Bynum. I would put I can't even answer that question. So
nobody comes to mind. But Alex, can I ask you a question? What do you think the return of D Rose does for Joakim Noah for his stock in the draft, fantasy draft, anyways?
Ideally, it should help with the overall efficiency play, but
nothing. Status quo.
It's going to take a little bit. It's going to take a little bit to see how their chemistry works. Because after missing what he did last year, I'm not sure what to expect.
Okay.
And another question here from Facebook. Costa Kofos, man. Cat can block a shot when he gets a chance. Is he worth late round consideration, or is he worthless without a clearer path to playing time?
Well,
another
he's
Gresham.
A guy. He's in Memphis now, so
yep.
He's going to get maybe 15, 20 minutes a game. And I could see him putting up 5 points, couple, 5, 6 rebounds, and 1 block. So he's going to be like, if he's your last pick in the draft, he's a decent pickup if you're looking for a block guy. But there's always other block guys that you can pick up later on, and I'll give you a handful of them. JaVale McGee in Denver, DeAndre Jordan from the Clippers. Both of those guys are being drafted outside the top 100. You can always go with Spencer Haas from Philadelphia and Bismack Biyombo from Charlotte. He's not even being drafted this year. He had 1.8 blocks per game last season. So there's always going to be block guys that are available in the last few rounds of your drafts, and you don't necessarily have to take a guy like that who's not even going to be a starter.
Bismack Biyombo is an interesting one. I mean, I thought he was a stretch last year from Charlotte when they drafted him fairly early. I think they mainly drafted him for the name. So, but I didn't realize he averaged 1.8 blocks per game. I mean, do you see Charlotte, speaking about that Charlotte team, which is just a disaster, besides, I mean, you see him being drafted maybe in the latter rounds. Anybody else from Charlotte even worth picking up? Who's even on that team?
Well, Cody Zeller, the rookie, he's going to be a 8th, 9th round pick. He's got a little bit of upside, but there's really nobody else that comes to mind right now. I mean, it really is pretty poor down there in terms of fantasy value.
Okay. Why don't we'll move on to the I guess the forward position, because I know we're killing centers here. Let's talk to us about, I mean, obviously we got LeBron and Durant, and the center or the forward position can be split into shooting or small forward and power forward. So let's go small forward first. Top 10 small forwards, and who's some sleepers, and where do we take our sleepers here for the small forward position?
Well, you got Durant and James, and then Paul George, Carmelo Anthony, Batum, guys like Rudy Gay, Josh Smith, Klay Thompson, and then kind of on the borderline top 10 guys, Ilyasova, Paul Pierce, Kobe, and Leonard from San Antonio.
Another buck. You hear that? Ersan Ilyasova. Yes. Ersanity, baby. That's what they're calling it in Milwaukee.
Put that name on a jersey there, Nevis.
There we go. Ersan Ilyasova. That's who he's talking about. So,
and he actually has a lot of upside this year from with the way he can shoot the ball. I think he might be a guy that they're going to look to along with Mayo to kind of lead that team in scoring. So he's actually a pretty good pickup in the 5th round this year.
Ilyasova, actually, if you look at the numbers, he'll break 30 on a team. It's not out of the realm of possibility. He can put up some good points. Plus, he has some good range from 3-point land. He can actually play pretty well. He's not consistent. And a lot of that may have had to do with Brandon Jennings.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're going to have a little bit of flux there in Milwaukee to see. But I do like Ilyasova as a drafted in the mid, like maybe 6th, 7th round, like you said.
Yep. And for sleepers, we kind of see a little bit of a drop off after Josh Smith and Batum kind of there. Rudy Gay is a guy that I really liked last year. I think he's got very good overall talent, and he's one of the multi-category producers that I'll be looking to pick up this year, because I think that the wing play in the NBA is kind of what's going to drive the league. We see a lot of the bigger guys that are quick enough. LeBron he sets himself apart, but you look at Durant and George and Carmelo Anthony, those guys have big frames, but they're quick. And Rudy Gay is another one of those guys who's underrated, but the numbers that he can put up are a little bit underrated to me. I think he's a 20-point guy. He can put up a handful of assists, rebounds. He can shoot the 3. He's going to be a guy that if you pick him up in the 4th round as your starting small forward, if you miss out on the elite guys, you should be okay.
He's also on a team where he's going to be the main option.
Right.
I mean, the Raptors have nothing going for them. That's another team like the Hornets. Are they the Hornets now officially again? Or are they still the Bobcats this year?
No, I think they are the Hornets now.
Are they the Hornets? Okay,
Right.
so the Hornets and the I should probably know that before I do a basketball show. The Raptors are a team just like the Hornets who just don't have much going for them. So,
Tyler Hansbrough.
well, I
Tim
saw him
Tebow
playing.
of the NBA.
Yeah, the Tim Tebow of the NBA. Actually, no, I saw him. I went to a Pacers game last year. I believe 2 Pacers games, and the one I went to. It perplexed me. It was Pacers Trailblazers. They gave Hansbrough the ball, and he had 10 points in the first quarter, and the crowd was going crazy. He didn't touch the ball the rest of the game, but first quarter he can score. And Hansbrough, he actually has some talent. It's just he's brought in mainly as a defensive guy,
Right.
and as a rebounder. But give him the chance, which he might get the chance in Toronto. I think he's actually worth a flyer in the late rounds. He puts up some numbers when he's allowed to play. Alex, what do you think about our gushing over Tyler Hansbrough there? Do you got a thought on him?
Yeah, well, I like it. I like it because if you think about taking a player that everybody knows in the last few rounds, if he does heat up and he starts to do well, you can always use him as trade bait in your fantasy leagues. I don't think he's going to be able to put up crazy good numbers for the entire season, but if he gets off to a good start, he's somebody that people are going to end up wanting to trade for just because they know who he is.
Okay. And I guess let's talk power forwards really quick. A power forward, again, I'm big into drafting big men early. I like to have centers and power forwards. Plus, a lot of the power forwards have power forward center eligibility in fantasy basketball. So you get those guys with the PF/C eligibility. It's the same with, if you mentioned with the shooting guards and small forwards, a lot of guys have SG, SF,
Right.
They can flip the positions, like a Paul George, for instance, or a Kobe even. So that power forward center position is a very interesting one as far as using as a flex. So Alex, talk to us. I mean, I have Kevin Love really high up there coming back from the injury, and his overall stat line all the way across. He's my number one power forward, but who do you have there at the power forward spot?
Well, Love is number one, and then we got guys like Ibaka, Nowitzki, Aldridge, and like I said, Ibaka and Aldridge also as centers. Anthony Davis, Josh Smith, Blake Griffin, DeMarcus Cousins, who's one of my favorite players.
Even though he's an ass?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Well, I like him because he's got the size and the physical ability. He reminds me of Josh Smith. I think if he can be a little bit quicker, he can play just like Josh Smith. And he's maybe a little bit bigger than him. And I kind of like his attitude on the court. He's a little aggressive, but we don't see that a lot these days. And I think that could play to his advantage in terms of fantasy points and in a few categories it helps him. In some it doesn't. But Cousins is a guy that I'll be targeting this year, 4th round, and I think he's got top 25 upside.
Wow, that's the first time I've even heard his name in fantasy discussions. That's a good sleeper right there. So do you see him? You think he's going to put up in the 20-point category here this year? They did pay him, so. Nope. Did we lose Alex again? We're having all kinds of Skype issues today, aren't we?
That's all right.
That's all right. Well, so DeMarcus Cousins here is but DeMarcus Cousins is a prick. I mean, he's
sort of a clown.
He's kind of a clown, but I know the Kings finally paid him, so that ought to have made him maybe happy.
Yeah, it seems like he needs like some kind of mentor or something. Like someone should kind of keep him in track.
Keep him in line. Yeah, I think that's what we're looking for.
What about Horford from the Pacers?
That's awesome hearing the Skype ringtone in the mid. So Al Horford from the Pacers.
Everything about Horford. I like Horford.
I like Horford from the Pacers. I think the Pacers, especially the one thing you saw with Roy Hibbert and his defense was he's so defensive minded that they weren't getting very many points from that power forward / center position. They had David West really manning that power forward spot, which I like David West, but he's not the pure scorer you want there. I think Alex, you back with us there? I see him, but I'm not sure if he can hear us here.
Yeah, I don't think he hears us.
Nope, I think we lost Alex again there. But yeah, that's the thing with Al Horford is he's going to be the upgrade from scoring from David West is significant there.
Yeah,
so.
he's one of those better. He's a better NBA player than he is a fantasy player.
Yeah, no, there's no question about it. Although David West could put up some good fantasy numbers last year, he was a good plug-in off the waiver wire. So I think we got Alex back. correct?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, so we were talking about DeMarcus Cousins, his point scoring potential, and a question about Al Horford. Thought on Al Horford's? Do you have any thought on him? My thought is he's going to put up more points than David West.
Yeah, he should put up more than West, but it's kind of one of those things where it just depends where you get him, what your team needs. I like Horford, but getting back to Cousins, I think this guy really has the chance to put up over 20 points, 11 rebounds, a block, a steal, a couple of assists. I think that people tend to forget about how good he was in college and how just the way he plays the game is just one of those things where if you get him, you should be happy with it because he's a big guy. He's hard to get injured. So Cousins is the guy that I do like this year a lot.
And Al Horford, where do you see him being drafted?
I'm not sure. I haven't seen him I haven't looked at my rankings for a minute.
I don't believe I see him on your rankings. I did not see him anywhere. So.
Third round.
Oh, maybe I'm
third round.
Oh, you're higher than maybe I'm way low on.
Or just next to Cousins.
Oh, okay. There you go. So you have him at the 26th overall position. So
I have Horford. I have Horford. Yeah, right next to Cousins.
Yep. So and then, actually, Horford is with the Pacers now. He's not with Atlanta anymore.
Is he?
Yeah. So that's
Oh man.
So that is accurate, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I thought. That was a big pickup for the Pacers, which I think that's why I'm really high on them beating the Heat this year.
Yeah, same. I mean, same here. That's what I said earlier. Hey, Alex, can I ask you a personal question? I guess the NBA GMs were kind of pulled this year, and they have the Pistons as the most improved team. And I, of course, that's what happens when you talk about the Pistons.
You talk about the Pistons, Alex
everyone
gone.
gets the hell out of there.
Everyone gets the hell out of there.
I don't blame him for that one.
I think he cut that one on purpose.
Yeah, he cut that
Like,
one on
Pistons talk. All right.
Alex, you back with us? Oh, I think you.
Just in case he jumps back, I was going to say that the GMs voted the Pistons as the most improved team. A lot of people have Pistons sliding in that 8th, maybe even 7th spot. I don't see it yet, but I was going to ask him the only things about Andre Drummond, if he's going to step it up this year.
I liked Andre Drummond last year. That's the thing. He wasn't putting up your great fantasy numbers necessarily, but from an overall, from a talent level that you want to build that team, that's why I like Larry Sanders so much. When you're looking at building blocks for a team like the Bucks, like the Pistons, who you're trying to get a team that's going to be growing, and you need something that they can build on. And defense is always going to help teams build that whole genre, I guess, of what they're trying to do. That's why I really like I like Drummond. I think he's going to step it up. I'm not sure if he's going to be giving you your big time fantasy numbers, but he's definitely a great building block. There's no question about
I guess clearly out of Detroit, I guess Jennings would be your top fantasy guy.
All right, we got Alex back. Love me some Skype. Makes my life so much easier.
Alex, I was just asking about the Pistons. I guess they were voted as the most improved team this year. And what do you think about Andre Drummond? Is he going to step up his game this year at all?
Yeah, I think so. I really like the Pistons. I think they make the playoffs. Just with everyone they brought in, they brought Billups back, Jennings, Josh Smith. I think Drummond really takes a step forward. I think they're actually a team that if they get matched up against the Heat, I think they can knock them out of the playoffs.
Oh my God.
Whoa, okay,
Heart attack
wow.
over here.
Okay, well,
I like it.
You're going to have to discuss that one here. That's a bold prediction right there. I mean, because if the Pistons make the playoff, they should be making it as a number 8 team, correct? I mean, that would be my prediction.
Maybe slide in the 7th spot.
So, I mean, in the 7th spot, I don't see them competing.
The highest, that's where I would have them.
7th or 8th. I mean, that's because I see Milwaukee in the same boat as a 7th or 8th team if they sneak into the playoffs, because the Eastern Conference, that bottom half is weak. So you could see a under 500 team or a team with just 40 wins or just around that area sneaking into the playoffs. But the Pistons beating the Heat, do you think there's matchup problems or just youth? What's the analysis there?
I think it's the matchup. I think Detroit's big on the outside, and they've got they have good big men down low, and Miami doesn't really have that. And if you're going to ask LeBron to have to guard Josh Smith, it's quick enough on the defensive end to kind of keep Jennings from doing his thing. And I think that the Pistons are a little bit underrated in terms of the veteran leadership that they do have with the players that are there. So if they make the playoffs and they get a face of the Heat, I would take the Pistons in a bit of an upset there. Well, more than a bit of an upset, but I think they can pull it off.
Oh, Alex, you're my new best friend, man.
Oh, I'm not going to have that about the. Okay, we have one more fantasy question we have to get to. The Frenchman Evan Fournier, drafted by the 20-year-old, drafted by the Nuggets. What's his upside? I don't see him as any fantasy upside, but is he on your radar at all?
Not really, but the one thing to watch with him is if he wins the shooting guard position in Denver, he's surrounded by Ty Lawson and a handful of other good players. He's a bit of he's a good three-point shooter, and that's one category that he'll contribute in if he does play and with the minutes that he does get. So he's another one of those late-round pickups that you get just for the three-point categories, but there's really no value overall to him.
Okay, so that's any other sleepers, fantasy basketball advice? Like I'm not exaggerating when I say fantasy basketball is one of the funner fantasy sports. I mean, football is what it is, but fantasy basketball is unbelievably fun and competitive, especially when you get a bunch of idiots playing it. Yeah. I've always enjoyed it, and I've always noticed the competitive nature of it. It's usually, if you're in a roto league, you usually got 4 or 5 teams in it up until the very end.
Right. Well, Alex, we didn't talk about Kobe. How early do you take a flyer on Kobe this year?
Right now, I'm thinking 4th round, just because of the injuries, and the age. We know what he can do when he's out there, but there's so many question marks. I'd feel safe with him in the 4th round.
All right.
And another question here about this: Enes Kanter, Utah, the Turkey guy. I think he's a 7'2" or 7'3", was drafted 4th overall last year or the year before. Do you see him on your radar as maybe a late round center, maturing a little bit?
Yeah, I kind of like him a little bit. He's going to be the guy down low. They got rid of pretty much everybody on that roster, so he's going to be the one guy to keep an eye on. He can get maybe a block or 2 per game, and I think he can average double-digit points and 8, 9 rebounds, something like that. He'll be a 10th, 11th round pickup that is a decent big man to have.
Okay.
What about, speaking of Utah, what about Trey Burke? You see him doing anything this year?
I got to talk Michigan.
I got to
here.
ask a personal question there. And I don't know. Alex, you hear me?
I think we lose Alex
yeah.
again. Oh, there we go.
Okay.
Trey Burke.
Well,
he's looking him up because he wasn't even on his radar.
Pretty much. He's kind of in the same boat as Kanter. He's going to put up numbers just because of playing time that he's going to get. He's going to get over 30 minutes, I'm sure. So if his style of play translates, and I think it will, you're looking at a decent three-point shooter, but I think if you get stuck with him as your number 2 point guard, you've messed up.
Right.
So I'd make sure to get a couple point guards before you end up picking up a player like that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a Michigan fan. I personally think he's a little bit too small for the NBA, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
He can score. He has a lot of ability, so he's going to have to grow into that position a little bit. So. We're just about at the end of the show here, Alex. We're gonna quick predictions here. Who do you got as the give me your Eastern Conference champion, your Western Conference champion. Who's winning this whole thing here this year? Give us a brief NBA preview from a regular season standpoint, not from fantasy. What do you got here?
I didn't catch that.
I said we only have a couple more minutes here in the show, so give us your actual NBA predictions here. Give me like the MVP, Eastern Conference champion, Western Conference champion. Who's winning it all? Talk about the upcoming season here. Let's talk some NBA.
All right. Well, right now I'm leaning towards the Pacers knocking the Bulls out of the Eastern Conference, and I got the Thunder beating the Rockets in the West, and I think the Thunder win it all. I think Kevin Durant has a big year, and they're going to need him to. So if he does have a big year, they got a great chance.
There you go.
The league in scoring. If that becomes the case, he's going to tie George Gervin for 3rd place on the all-time list of scoring titles, and earning his 4th.
Ooh,
the Iceman.
Iceman. We know that. There he goes.
All right.
I think we lose Skype there again, there, Jason. Skype issues today, ladies and gentlemen. Apparently, don't podcast with Skype. That's what we're learning. So, Sean, who do you got for NBA preview? You got anything for us? Any expert analysis?
No, I do not.
I'll tell you right now, I like the Pacers this year. The signing of Horford is really good. They did make some really good pickups,
right?
And they trimmed a little bit of the fat. They have some cap space. They have a GM that's willing to spend a little bit of money, and they have a rabid fan base. I mean, unlike some other NBA teams, the Pacers are not your typical quote unquote small market team.
Right.
Because in Indiana, if nothing has shown, they will support the Pacers. And the Pacers, Conseco Fieldhouse sells out regularly. It's a good place to watch a basketball game. I like the Pacers this year. I think the Pacers are going to make the step, and they are going to beat the Heat this year.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned earlier, I think the Heat are vulnerable.
Yep.
And there was a lot of worry coming out of Indy last year after the season was over that they were not going to be able to keep that team together, and they did. They kept them all. They got them all there. Rangers come back. Like I said, hopefully he can stay healthy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's going to hurt
Paul George.
Yeah, George or not, but no.
And Roy Hibbert's. They have 2 All-Stars. I mean, you always talk about in the NBA, it's so star heavy. Yeah, it's all star heavy, right? Everybody has to be star heavy. Well, they got 3 All-Stars on that team. Actually 4, because Granger's been an All-Star. Yeah. So you have Horford, you have Hibbert, and you have George.
Yeah, the solid front court, back court. I think the Pacers got it. They're going to make a good run this year.
Yeah, they're going to make a great run this year, and the Pacers, don't sleep on the Pacers this year.
All
I think
right, we got Alex back, and we're towards the end of this show, so let's let him plug his stuff before we lose him again.
Well, sorry for the Skype issues there, Alex.
Well, it's all good. It happens.
So I think we got some good fantasy basketball talking. So as we're wrapping everything up, before we lose you again, do you have anything you'd like to plug? Anything you want to rant about? You have a free forum with us here. So.
Well, just MrFantasyFreak.com. You can go there, check it every few days. There should be new articles posted. We've been doing weekly football rankings, and now basketball starting. So one of the writers on the site, Kenneth, he does power rankings, and he does a lot of fantasy stuff as well. And he's great with when it comes to basketball. So he's somebody to follow on Twitter. And just keep going back to the site and check out all the new articles for basketball and football, and then baseball. In a couple of months, I'll start getting ready for baseball, and that'll be a big deal.
We'll definitely have you back for baseball, no question about it. So. And your Twitter and your Facebook, you want to give those one more time? Oh, did we lose him?
Just as that happened.
Oh,
there he is.
No, there he is. Alex, do you have what are your Twitters and Facebooks again?
Go ahead, Alex.
Go ahead, Alex.
Well, Twitter is AWise28 or at Mr_Fantasy Freak, and then you can just find, I think it's Mr. Fantasy Freak on Facebook, but all the links and stuff are on the website, so you can just go from there.
Okay, and all the links are on our website as well, and they'll also be plugged on the Sportsbeard Facebooks and all that fun stuff. Well, also, this particular podcast will be available, the video stream, even though it's kind of blocky, will be available on YouTube, so we'll make sure to send you that link as well.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, guys, for having me on.
No,
right,
thanks for joining us, Alex. We really appreciate it. Good luck with your fantasy basketball team, and we'll probably see you again come fantasy baseball time, right? Nope, we lose.
Yes,
Alex, we'll see you again.
No, he doesn't want to come back for fantasy baseball. I don't blame him at all. I think we did lose him.
Oh, Alex, you still there? Oh, this is a great end.
Yeah, barely, I guess.
Oh, I was gonna say, you want to join us again for fantasy baseball time?
Yes.
Yes, he will.
Yes, I will be back.
Alex, you're going to join us for fantasy baseball. We just agreed that. Or
Skype made you agree to that.
Yeah, either that or we're never going to. Well, let's fix the Skype issue, Jason. What the fuck?
Goddamn chipmunk.
Do I run Microsoft? Can I fix Skype? I don't think
this is ridiculous. This is the worst Skype ever.
Really?
So I think Alex can still hear us. I don't even think he was still connected.
Well, thanks for joining us, Alex, and sorry about all the issues. I'll write. Apparently, Nevis thinks I can fix Skype because I run Microsoft. So hopefully next time it'll be way better.
That's all right. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, and we'll see you for fantasy basketball or baseball.
All right. Take care, Alex. Thanks a lot.
Did we lose him again there?
I just cut it after.
All right. That concludes Sportsbeard, I think. Jason, you got anything to rant about? You want to rant about Skype?
I got a lot of things to rant about, but I don't have the energy to do it.
At least rant about the freaking chipmunk in your bedroom.
Okay, yeah. Well, first off, if you do production of any style of streaming or anything like that, do not upgrade your operating system. This would have been a good thing to know 2 days ago because everything is haywire here. And now after 8 hours of trying to fix it today, right when I was like, it's fixed, a chipmunk ran into my office. Chased by my dog, and now it's trapped in my bedroom. So that's what we get to do. And, they're cute outside, but inside, fuck them.
Agreed.
Okay, I got nothing on chipmunks, so I don't like the movies. or the cartoons.
What? Dave was awesome.
Oh, screw the chipmunks.
Chipmunk Christmas?
Screw the chipmunks.
Ah, you're an idiot.
You're an idiot. Well, you have a chipmunk in your bedroom and you're calling me an idiot?
Hey, you're the one going to help me get it out. So,
Sean, you got anything for us here?
I do. I agree with Weaver. This is the one week where I got 4 or 5 things to go on. But quickly, if you are out and about, whether it's a tailgate or if you're at a stadium, and you see people doing a radio show or a podcast, whatever, that does not give you the right to walk up and just interfere and do whatever you want. No, let people do their thing. You don't have to interrupt. That's just being a dick. All right? That goes to a lot of people out there. Mm-hmm. You know who you are.
Yeah, it's not that we mind the interruptions, but most people, they have the respect to be like, they wave at you or they like kind of quietly, like they write you a note or they kind of just like, it's usually like an implicit, yeah, I know you're busy, acknowledge me type thing, not getting in your ear when you're on the mic like, hey. Yes. That doesn't work.
We've grown to expect this from Paula. Paula is our tailgate mascot. And I felt bad for her.
She's the one and only Sportsbeard groupie, so don't
she's not
don't
a groupie.
I felt bad for her. Is it Rodney from Drury's?
Yep.
He was trying to do his thing, and I was trying to keep eye contact with her so she would leave him alone while he was trying to do his speech, and I was just trying to keep her motivated on me because she was just running her mouth. And then we had the Cancer Society guy come in and just basically take over a mic.
Which I guess you can't really not let him take over the mic when he's
cancer,
like, look at me, I'm talking about the Cancer Society. Can I come on your radio program? Like, yes, I guess. Go ahead. Here, sit on my mic while I'm trying to run a show here. Go ahead.
Anyways, that ends that rant. But quickly, next person who says that Ndamukong Suh is the dirtiest player in the NFL has not seen Brandon Merriweather play some football.
Ooh, yeah. Okay.
From the U.
Yeah. And you should be pissed about that, the way he tried to take out half your Bears team.
Oh, no. When the Bears first got him from the Patriots, I was like, hell yeah, all right, we got a hard hitter back there at safety. 2 weeks into the season, I was like, I can't wait for this dude to be gone.
Yeah.
He wasn't that good at Miami. He was okay with the Patriots, and he's sucked ever since.
Yeah, and the NFL to lessen the suspension from 2 games to 1, especially with all this talk about lessening concussions and stuff. And this guy is a headhunter. He is a torpedo. Mm-hmm. Especially a hit on Marshall in the end zone. He off his feet, both forearms, and the crown of his helmet.
Yeah.
And he hurt himself. Same thing he did against Packers game. He got fined for a legal hit, and he knocked himself out.
He knocked himself out of the game.
Yes, and the game against Bears, 2 more personal fouls. And they're both for hitting with the crown of his helmet.
Yeah, we're all for hard hits, but at some point in time, you can't keep touting safety, touting it, and then let this guy get off with 1 game.
And he's already said he's not going to change the way he plays. He doesn't care.
Yeah,
He'll pay the fines and just keep hurting people. So
that part I do respect. That he's just like, nah, I'm not. Build
Fair
me.
enough, but
Build me later. I don't give a shit.
He's also going to break
I'm
his
here to play
fucking neck.
football. Well, then that's the choice he made.
Yeah,
fair enough. I'm okay with that. I get that stat, so I'm okay with it. So if he's going to be a dumbass, let him be a dumbass.
There you go. Yeah, we're short of time, so that'll end my rant.
Okay, I'm not going to rant today because I think you both covered it. So,
all right,
is that it?
That's it.
Thank you for listening to Sportsbeard, everybody. Subscribe to us on iTunes. Subscribe to us or download us on Stitcher Radio if you need to. Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/Sportsbeard. Follow us on Twitter @SportsBeard1. Follow Ecletnet @Ecletnet. Follow Mr. Fantasy Freak. That's Mr._Fantasy Freak. And YouTube. What's our YouTube channel?
It's YouTube.com/Eclectnet.
There you go. I should have known that. Thank you, everybody. Cheers.
Sportsbeard, really weird. Podcast, a podcast, it's finally here.
An hour of topical sports ranting and raving on both local and national topics. No topic off limit. Is it overdone? Maybe. But at least they both have beers.
Sportsbeard, really weird. Podcast.